Beside still waters, beside still waters.
Well, hi folks, welcome to, I was going to say Coffee and Isaiah. We're meditating with Isaiah, but we can meditate with coffee as well. We're at verse 9 of Isaiah 55. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways and my thoughts than your thoughts. And I say this quite a lot, but this is true. If you can grasp this, it just makes such an enormous difference. So we saw yesterday, my thoughts are not your thoughts, and how God thinks, and the mind of Christ, and so on. But let me put it another way in here. Have you ever thought, I've got to get my thoughts out of the gutter? Sometimes you find yourself thinking things that you know just are gross or disgusting or wrong. Other things you struggle with. Or maybe it's just anger, there's jealousy, there's lustful thoughts. There's all these different things. But there's doubts and there's fears and there's unbelief and so many. Sometimes we may say to someone, can they get any lower? Can they get any lower? And I think that how we think really reflects what we think of God. And I think that far too often we judge God by our thoughts rather than letting our thoughts be judged by Him. So there's a gap here between God and His convictions and His plan and His actions and our convictions. So in this case, God was using Darius, and the Israelites were saying, well, we're independent, we're autonomous, we'll do it our way. In fact, that dreadful song by Frank Sinatra, I Did It My Way, what a horrible epitaph for anyone to actually have. And there's no compromise between God's thoughts and our thoughts. I just watched a video, in fact, I'd almost contemplated playing some of it, but it's a bit too depressing. It's the comedienne Sandy Toksvig talking about her visit with the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, and basically saying how God's got it wrong. And she's going to tell him, Justin Welby, what he should be doing and how he needs to keep up with modern society. And it's utterly appalling. And if she's telling the truth, and I believe she is, the fact that Welby said, well, not yet, but we will get there eventually, I find that so utterly depressing. I'm not going to move from God's thoughts. I want our society to reshape itself according to what God says, not for us to reshape our own particular gods according to what the elites and the rich in our society say. Because there's an enormous difference. Look what he says, how much higher, as the heavens are higher than the earth. Now we're quite up high up here, we're 7 stories up. I look up, to the heavens. At night, if I look up to the stars, if I went out to an area where I could see the stars, and God's basically saying, you see your thoughts? They're down here, and mine are way up there. The answer to the question, of course, is immeasurably. So this means we should have a due humility. We shouldn't be coming to God and telling Him what He should think. We shouldn't be like, for example, I guess my nemesis, Steve Chalk, saying that Jesus got some things wrong and we're going to show him what's right. If we repent of that way of thinking, then we get an insight into how God thinks. And guess what? I'm coming back to Calvin. They who measure God by themselves as a standard form a false idea and altogether contrary to His nature. And indeed, they cannot do Him a greater injury than this. Are men who are corrupted and debased by sinful desires not ashamed to compare God's lofty and uncorrupted nature with their own, and to confine what is infinite within those narrow limits by which they feel themselves to be wretchedly restrained? In other words, how dare you, how dare we, how dare I constrain God to this mind, to this body? I mean, I was speaking to my mother today, and I guess if you're watching this, Mum, hi, you probably will be, and you're talking about She was talking about what a bright mind Sinclair Ferguson has, and she's absolutely correct. One of the smartest minds I've ever come across. But Sinclair would be the first to acknowledge you can't confine the understanding of God to his mind, no matter how brilliant. Calvin talks about us being shut up in a prison of our own beliefs. And I think we're too often shut up within a prison of our thoughts. Sometimes we just have to say, this is beyond me. Sometimes we just have to say, we don't get this, but we trust the one who does. I love Psalm 103, because you see, this is tied in with forgiveness as well. Psalm 103:11, for as high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is his love for those who fear him. As far as the east is from the west, so far as he removed our transgressions from us. I don't think we can conceive of us ever doing that, but God can, and God does. And it's just a wonderful thing. It's strange, isn't it? Some people's fear is that God is not like us. I think our fear should be if God was like us. And I think instead we should look at the good God who is glorious and whose thoughts are way above ours. So this is, what is today actually? Oh, I'm a bit confused. It's Tuesday afternoon. Hopefully I shall see you tomorrow on Wednesday as we continue to look at this marvellous passage. God bless you and see you then. Bye.
Be